leaders of the legal community, and you will help us get back on the right track. To do as Shakespeare said when he said, "Do as adversaries in the law, strive mightily, but eat and drink as friends." That's the tradition that I believe we should see demonstrated not only in our courtrooms by members of the bar, but by those of us who have the responsibility of representing our states and districts in the United States Congress. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. I look forward to hearing your questions.
You probably should, yeah. I don't know what these mics are on. Well, Senator, if you were at our party last night in our hospitality suite, you'd know that there are many people in this room who've taken Shakespeare's advice about eating and drinking as friends. So we've had a great time. Thank you very much. We have some wonderful questions from the audience, as we did yesterday. Many of them are on the topics you just discussed. A couple of them are on larger topics, things that perhaps have come before the Judiciary Committee or might in the future. With regard to the confirmation process, one question asks whether or not there are any specific proposals that have been made to change the process in some way to try to accomplish a more collegial approach. And what impediments do you see in the Congress to changing that approach?
Well, I think there really isn't any new procedure that needs to be instituted. It's, you know, no one, I don't think members of the Senate would agree to limit their authority to provide advice and consent during the process. I think what I'm talking about primarily is one of civility of tone and treating people with the dignity and respect that we would want for ourselves if we were in their shoes. I think one thing that I would call for is Congress, and particularly the Senate, since it's its job to do the advice and consent during the confirmation process, just not to be so short-sighted. I mean, we know, anybody who's been in the Congress very long knows that one day you're up and the next day you may be down. In other words, you may be in the majority one day, the next election you may be in the minority. And so we know the shoe will be on the other foot. And it's hard indeed to avoid the natural human temptation to pay back for a perceived mistreatment when you were in the minority. And so I think it's very important just to be more far-sighted and to realize that there's a reason why congressional approval is around 11%. People don't think we're getting the job done here in Washington, and we need to show them that we can.
On the topic of judicial salaries, do you see any particular impediments to increasing judicial salaries? What do you see are the hurdles in the Congress, and have there been stated objections to that other than perhaps purely budgetary concerns?
Well, having been on both sides of the judicial salary issue, both as a judge when I was hoping that the state legislature in Texas would increase my salary, and now being a member of the legislative branch and listening to my colleagues when members of the court and others come over to request our consideration when it comes to increasing salaries, it's a very odd relationship because members of Congress feel like they work very hard and feel underpaid. I personally don't believe that. I think Congress is well compensated, but the fact of the matter is you can go back and look at when Ronald Reagan fired the air traffic controllers who felt like their jobs were too stressful and that they were underpaid. Well, that describes probably what most of America feels about their jobs, that they're underpaid and their jobs are too stressful. So there's not a lot of sympathy there. But I would simply appeal to my colleagues in the Congress on the basis of practicality. How are we going to do, as I said, persuade people to leave good-paying jobs in the private sector and to become federal judges unless we're going to pay them something, if not commensurate, at least within reason, that would allow them to leave the private sector and opt for a job as a federal judge. So there have been proposals made, but I have to say that it's always a fight because some members of Congress feel like, why should federal judges get paid more when I'm not going to get paid more? And I would just, again, encourage my colleagues to be a little more far-sighted and think of what's in the best interest of maintaining an independent and highly qualified judiciary.
We have a couple of questions on slightly larger topics that, on issues that come before the Judiciary Committee regarding privacy and terrorism, Patriot Act, and so on. Given that there have been no terrorist attacks on U.S. soil since 9/11, and with regards to issues that you see before the Judiciary Committee, what do you think that we're doing right, and what do you think still needs improvement?
Well, I know Chairman Conyers has been in the middle of this debate, and it is as I have and as members of the Senate have, and it's a debate we've had since the inception of our country. What's the appropriate balance between security concerns and, let's say, privacy concerns when it comes to intelligence gathering? What sort of limitations are we going to put on the intelligence community when it comes to collecting information from foreign nationals who may be communicating with American citizens? This has been a big debate that we've had, for example, in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and what the requirements are in order to monitor very valuable intelligence that comes from foreign national to foreign national that may happen to, by virtue of modern technology, come through a switch located in the United States, and how do we sort all that out? So that's really the balance. But I think we've clearly done some things right, and the best evidence, Henry, is what you mentioned, that we haven't been hit again, and we know it's not for lack of trying. And one of the great debates we have is in Washington, and it's an important debate, is whether what we are doing in places like Iraq and Afghanistan are making us safer or not. I happen to believe that they are. That one of the reasons that we have been successful in disrupting the ability of organizations like Al-Qaeda to train, recruit, and then export their attacks against our country is because we've disrupted them. We've made it hard for them to stay in one place and to talk to each other without fear of having those communications intercepted in a way that allows us to prevent attacks. But I might just say that the other part of the debate is whether we ought to treat terrorism and really what is a war as if it were a criminal justice matter. I argue that we should treat it like a war, because what we want to do is preempt attacks, not just punish the guilty after they've been successful in killing perhaps thousands of innocent Americans. That's the challenge I think we continue to have as we struggle with our Anglo-American legal tradition, where we tend to regard things, everybody's a lot more familiar with law and order and sort of the traditional rights afforded to a criminal defendant in a case than they are the power of the commander-in-chief under the Constitution during a time of war. But I do believe we are making a difference. We are making it safer for Americans right here at home. I fear sometimes that that's not being articulated or explained in a way comprehensible to most people, and we need to do a better job of doing that. But I do believe that those are really the key points in the debate that I know will not end anytime soon, and it shouldn't.
Senator, we have time for one final question, and it's sort of a two-parter. With the 2008 elections now obviously well underway and already in the public consciousness, and with that process carrying forward throughout next year, what do you see on the horizon for the Senate Judiciary Committee? Is there going to be a problem in getting federal judges confirmed in the next year? Will there be a holdup of those? And are there other issues that you see coming before the committee that may have trouble getting to the floor because of that election process?
Well, of course, we have an election every 2 years at in the House of Representatives, and I, for one, think that the presidential election campaigns have already gone on way too long. They're wearing me out, and probably you too. But But that's the nature of the process, unfortunately, given the nature of the media today, and I hope you'll ask Brit Hume about this, whether